Good evening, Arun.
Yeah, hi, very good evening to you. And first of all, I welcome you on this show. A very warm welcome from me and also a lot of audience who are going to watch you in the next 30, 40 minutes that we are going to talk.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Uh,
Thank you
it's a
so much.
pleasure, and it is my first LinkedIn Live. And I'm not at all, what do you say, hesitant to say that because I don't think I'm here as a expert. I'm here as a practitioner. So let's just see how the flow goes and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
speak.
absolutely. So I would say that, before we get into all that, I want to also inform all the audience that whom we are talking to. She's Rupali Rane. She's the head of HR at Nova Fertility and Motherhood. She is currently based out of Bangalore. I am allowed to say only up to this. And from here, I will ask Rupali, before we jump into the topic that we have chosen for today, why don't you give a brief introduction of what you do, what are your hobbies, and what all everybody should know about you?
Okay. In one word, if I have to say, I'm a lifetime practitioner, learner, okay, of everything and anything. I'll first go on to my hobbies, multiple hobbies. I have been an actor, singer, performer, a lifetime monitor. I think every class I entered in, teachers felt that they should make me prefect. I don't know why. And that is where the whole confusion started as to what do I want to do. Because at the same time, whenever they wanted to put some concept in my classes head, they had me saying that, can you convince them to do so? And somehow I could manage. I could manage. I was a sports captain. And then person like this gets absolutely confused as to what am I supposed to do in life. And two obvious professions came in front of me. I'm also a programmer, by the way. I learned programming for 3 years and really thought during that time, that was a once upon a time in Mumbai, I say Y2K. So I was a programmer, started working on it and realized that is not meant for me. I pulled my energy from people, and the only two professions that came in my mind was sales. All sales professor were very keen that I get onto that, but somewhere that people aspect, and I felt as a human resource professional, you can do a lot of justice for the personality that I am, and every day is different. It's exciting. So I felt, okay, HR is the way to go, and absolutely, I'm here for last 23 years, still practicing, still learning. I don't know whether I can be a command on this topic to talk about. First of all, it's a very, very heavy topic. I'm still on the path. So, what I'm going to share will be purely out of my practice and experience. And I don't think anybody can become a perfect leader. We all are in transitioning mode. We keep learning, we keep understanding, and 23 years, I think, is a time enough to say something about it. And last 13 years, I've been associated with healthcare industry. If I may have to give a small introduction of myself, my name suggests Rupali Rane. So I'm a Mumbai Chimulgi who is settled in Bangalore for last 13 years. So that's a brief introduction. I hope that could give a little bit of gist into what my profile is all about. And still learning, will continue learning as we move ahead.
Excellent, excellent, Rupali. Though I know when you speak from your heart, and I can see that. So thank you so very much for telling some of the facts that even I was not aware that how good programmer and actor, and I also know that you are a good singer that you told me, but someday we'll listen that as well. So
Okay.
as you rightly said that this topic, how to transition from a manager to a leader, manager versus leader, there has been so much. You go to any B school today, they put up this topic as one of the most favorite topic. You go to any leadership session today, they put this topic. So if this topic has been talked so much about right from ages, why are we talking about it? And what do you feel that you can put some light on it? That why is it that it is still a confusion? And if so, why? Something you talk on this first.
Okay. I think all of us, we all are managers in our individual field, and all throughout this, whatever said and done, every organization or every standard organization will have a LDP in which sometime or the other you end up going. You love the games, you love the learnings, and you aspire to be that. What I personally feel is even if you become a leader, you cannot remove the manager hat, right? You need to intermittently play those roles, but it's critical for all of us to become leaders, because if we have to grow, we have to become leaders. And why there is so much confusion? Because it's very funny. Okay, each one of us are picked by different people. Now, very funnily, we when we pick up the people for the next role, many a times we look at the tenure, we look at how well I have done in my job, and picked up those people, put them into the leadership role. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. If I actually tell you the statistics, anyway, 40% of hiring is misfit. That's a universal data. But when it comes to leaders or managers, right, 80% is a misfit, because I pick up a doer and I put them into the leadership position. Uh, and that is where this topic becomes extremely critical. And another thing is succession planning. Very typical word, but it becomes extremely critical for a growing organization. And looking at all this with just 20% hit ratio, that means 80% failure and 20% hit ratio, it becomes extremely critical to learn about this topic and to understand. I look at this topic in threefold. Am I supposed to be the leader? Do I know myself? Is there somebody else who can help me know myself? And then build the aspiration whether I want to go there. There is absolutely nothing wrong in being a lifetime manager if you're good at it, and there is nothing wrong if you are if you get become a leader. What happens is everyone in the organization becomes a leader, then it will be little chaotic, right? We need managers to ensure that systems or processes are in place, and we need a right ratio. No scientist to date has come up with what is the right ratio of leaders and managers, but every organization needs a good mix. I look at it this way: I start as a manager, I become a leader manager, and then I move into the leader position. That's a journey we all are into. And that's why there is so much confusion around it, and everybody aspires for it. And I very strongly recommend everybody should not aspire for it, because I bring some strengths, and there are multiple tools to figure out what am I good at, what am I not good at. And based on that, make your career decision. Do not just do it because others have done. That's why I feel this topic becomes very, very important for all of us.
Wonderful. So thank you for bringing in light that why there is so much of confusion, and still as we are in this journey, we are learning. So tell me, is it a problem with the confusion of leader and manager is something to do with the middle management or young managers or first time managers, or do you see this as a potential challenge even at people who are at top positions when they say that, you know, I am in the leadership team or I am the management team? Just put some thoughts on that. What do you think
There
about
is
this?
a difference in designation and these titles. These are very, very different. I feel that a person who does his work with a purpose is a leader, and doesn't stop at just working with the purpose, also has ability to evangelize that purpose among his team members. So, do you remember that always it's a very popular story where we talk about, a sweeper who is asked that why are you working in NASA? It's a very common story. And he says, I'm working for putting the man on the moon. That, according to me, is a leader in his own trade. So it doesn't have anything to do with the designation. Sometimes we are given the designations, but we are not necessarily yet leaders. We might be just managers. That is something for individually to decide. I wouldn't be able to say, no, we are not leaders, we are managers. I think that is for teams to answer to.
Okay, excellent. So as I see, you know, a lot of time, you know, I've seen personally also a lot of designated leaders who are on the top role. Even they have this kind of a confusion, and many a times they do not know when to lead and when to manage. And that brings my next question, that as a leader or as a manager, because we are talking about transitioning from manager to leader. So,
Okay.
so tell me, like, for the betterment of a of a leader who is even at the first level of leadership and somebody at a top level of leadership, irrespective of in which continuum he or she is. Put some light on when to lead and when to manage, because you have to play the roles both sides.
Okay, so let's take an example of a factory, right, where you have set processes. The deviation of the process can lead to the safety issues. That is just a very basic brick and mortar kind of example. There, you need a manager. You do need a leader, but you need a manager who is totally glued onto those particular processes and can ensure that that is managed. You know, the typical, the moment I talk about it, the Japanese technique come into picture. They work like box. They are called as box, right? They know what they're supposed to do. They just put the pieces. So one person will only do this. That is where manager is needed. But where we need leader is two things. Manager can give a good micro picture. A leader can look at the macro picture and connect the macro purpose to the individual purpose. Why am I saying this? Is I felt whenever there was a congruence between a individual aspiration and the organizational aspiration, that is where organizations did phenomenally well. Because me as a person is understanding where do I fit in into the big piece, and then I start delivering it as if it's my own business, right? And that is where the benefit comes, and that is needed for every manager, seriously speaking. I wouldn't say you don't need to do that, but if someone is only into strategy and not into processes, that is also a mix which is not right. So coming back to your question, I feel a real leader is where, you know, wears some multiple hats. He's also a manager. He's emotionally very intelligent. Even in the worst of the cases, how do you maintain? So if it's a mistake of a team member, it's my mistake. But if something good happens, it's publicly spoken about. Those are certain traits that I picked up from some of my managers. Manager is also one who is continuously criticized for pushing people in the corner, right? The team is continuously saying, it's not going to happen. Please don't try it. I think that's a mistake. Oh, he's crazy. How is he pushing? But when as a team you reach there, that is where you understand. And I was fortunate enough to work with people like that. And something that I felt as a reportee difficult and not possible, they showed the path. And that is the same thing we also do with our teams, because it's not about maintaining status quo always, it is also about creating a new path. And if you have to grow, you need to be a leader, right? And that comes very clearly. So manager preserves the status quo, and leader probably questions the status quo, right? And also not only questions the status quo, leader also allows people to question the status quo. uh, Manager delegates within given framework and delegates for particular task and also monitors it. Leader trans is very, very open for delegating and also open for dealing with the mistakes. And that is where, when you're open for dealing with the mistakes, I think that is where the leaders below you start growing. And that is something I personally feel as a manager or as a leader, whatever, you can use both the words. One of the biggest successes I felt was giving those leaders back to the industry, right? They were at X level, and when they go to X square level, I think for all of us, nothing more satisfactory than seeing your people grow in the industry. And that is where my growth also comes in. Leader is not at all insecure. It's okay. In fact, I would say the other way around. At the time of hiring, leader doesn't hire donkeys. He hires horses, and sometimes those horses who are better than him or her. Sorry, I would use both, him and her. It's extremely critical to pick up those people who are probably little better than you, and if not, pick up somebody with a bright spark rather than just trying to run a herd, right? Because if you run a herd, you're only doing for the rest of the life. You're never relaxed and you can never think about the bigger picture. And that I feel, I hope I answered your question with that.
Yeah, you have. And actually, what you have mentioned all about those challenges, I think that is very prudent, because that's why we started by the topic itself, why there is so much of confusion. And
Hmm.
you touched on a very important point, that when a leader selects people and he looks for horses, not the other way around. So I want to ask you, because we are also into talent acquisition, and whenever our organization get a mandate, we get the first thing, we want the best. We want one of the best leaders. Nobody says, okay, we want one of the best managers. We want to have everything. So why an organization is looking for more leaders at this point of the time today? Because this is, every organization wants, they want to have the best leaders. And they also have people within the system where they feel that they have less leaders, or probably they are not up to the mark. So why is that so much of cry for leadership today? I don't know whether I am saying it or I'm hearing it very often, or was it that it was right from the day one that this entire thing started? Any lights on that? Why there is so much of you that, okay, I am a manager, I'm doing my job, then why my organization wants to me a leader? That's what our topic is, how to transition from a manager to a leader. So why this demand of leadership is growing so fast?
Okay, so see the scenario around us, right? If you look at 10 years back managers and today's managers, not even 10 years back, I think few years back, I can look at, we were operating in tall organizations with a clear hierarchy. And there are certain countries I still feel when I'm, watching a lot of, and now a lot of other culture content is available on Netflix also. I really see there are tall hierarchy driven organizations where processes work wonderfully well. But let's look at Indian parlance or India, to be very specific. We have moved out from tall organizations. I wouldn't say they are not there, but they are in much lesser number than what it is today. Today, we work in, let's say, predominantly project based kind of a scenario. People come together for the project and then they move on and they move out. That is how exactly it works. Now, there maintaining hierarchy is very difficult. And these are knowledge workers. Each one of them are SME in their own regard. If you start using order over there, you're going to have huge attrition, and you know, you need to listen. So, what happens is if the environment around us is changing. So, previously we used to say this was last 10 years trend, this was 5 years trend, right? Today we can't say this was last month trend, right? There is nothing called as trend. By the blink of an eye, things are changing, right? And when that happens, and you have a manager who is waiting for your orders to deliver, you have a huge load on you. And that's probably why industry, the companies are asking for the leaders who can think on their own. But seriously speaking, Arun, I feel, do they really know when they're asking what they're asking? People who are actually sitting there, are they really there? First question. Do they know what do they expect? It's one thing to say I need leaders. What do I mean by I need leaders? If you get into the deeper understanding of that, I think you will end up finding manager definition, right? It has just become very fancy to saying I need leader, because it's one thing to want leader. It's another thing to give them the, what do you say, being ready to give that authority to them. If you're not ready for this, then asking for leader is a wrong question. So that is where, as a recruiter, you can get into those questions as to first understand what is the culture of the organization and then give the right person. Otherwise, a dynamic person in a hierarchical organization will be a loss to both individual as well as an organization. So I think that is where it is. You probably need to deep dive into that. I want leader.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. Because what you touched on, one thing which is very prudent again, is a lot of things are changing. It's not about 5 year trend or a 3 year trend. It's a weekly or a monthly trend. And if you're not agile, if you're not hooked to what's happening in the market, that's why I think in the last 2 to 3 years, I have seen agility has become one of the very
Yeah.
used word and very relatively right word. If you are not agile, and I will add one more word, is adaptable, then I think things are going to get difficult for everyone. So if I understand this point that you just mentioned, so I feel that probably leaders of yesterday's were little more, they had their own challenges, but I feel that leaders of today, there is a huge expectation from them. There's so much things are happening, so much of information, so much of Insta, so much of LinkedIn, so much of data, everything is flowing from everywhere. And the companies expect them to be agile and be. So what are the things that you would recommend any young manager or anybody who is listening to this video? What would be your recommendation to him or her that they should start doing now, so that, let's say, 3 years, 5 years down the line, they should think about it? First thing, that they are really thinking about 3 years or 5 years is a big question. So so let's talk about 6 months to 1 year, what they should do so they can become more agile, they can become more adaptable to this role.
First of all, I feel that if you're talking about a young manager, so I take this question for the young managers. Very first thing is be open for every assignment. I think that is where the Gen Z is little lagging behind, not ready to explore until they jump into it. They have a lot of inhibitions. So if you want to become a manager of that Gen Z, then you need to explore everything. Okay, specialization comes through the knowledge in books. So the very first thing that they need to do is, I think, we are hiring for ability and building aptitude. It's exact ulta if you really want to grow. Hire for aptitude and build ability. It's extremely easy now to train somebody when it comes to the ability, right? You have so much around, right? So that is one part that one needs to look at. Second is be a lifetime learner. There is nothing wrong in learning new things and accepting and unlearning. That is a bigger problem. When they move from one organization to the other, they bring in the same concept. It doesn't work out. And as managers, we need to be even more, what do you say, agile, because the people around us are bringing a whole lot of knowledge. They are looking at you for a solution, and you can only give the solution when you know what is the question is all about. When you're still in the aura of your education pedigree and not understanding these dynamics, you're going to fail. Third thing is, this Gen Z is looking out for challenging assignment at their own convenience. Okay, so me being that era manager, I can say, I cannot say ki, oh, I stretch so long, so even you're expected to stretch. You cannot leave before me. All those things are gone. Get up. Very first thing, right? You're a new manager. You cannot expect that. If your manager has done it with you, do not pass it on. Please do not pass it on, because it's extremely critical to understand those boundaries. And believe me, there are enough and more opportunities outside to have me time and still deliver. So you're not doing something very great by making them putting into the order. So first of all, get out of the order, and understand one thing. If you want them to remain where they are, you will never grow, because you will remain where you are, right? So you need to let go. If as a first time manager, you need to let go, you need to trust, you need to take the blames. And the best part about the first time managers is, you cannot say that I am a finance manager or I am a solution architect and I'm leading a team, so I will continue to be with my subject. No. Today's manager needs to understand, first of all, P&L properly. Forget about P&L. I would say financial parameters of the organization one needs to know. Second is, one need to understand, where do I impact and where do my team impacts on those parameters. Third, I need to be an eternal HR manager. I'm an HR manager. I don't know, soon my job will be obsolete, because it is expected from the line managers today. I need to be a finance manager. I also need to be the salesman, because I don't stop at wearing these hats. I'm also selling my project outside. So you can imagine the number of hats versus what we used to have in the era of specialization. If you're ready to do that, I think get ready to become manager. Otherwise, it's perfectly okay in today's era to remain as a IC. Because believe me, you can bring the walls together, you can bring the money together, you can bring the companies together, but getting people together is the most difficult part. And do not forget, at the end of it, these are humans, right? They have emotions. The target is not the only thing. Beyond that, whatever said and done, whatever gyan we've discussed right now, I think at the end of it, it's a human. It has a touch point. Never lose the connect with that. It's extremely important. And all these things combined together are going to make you successful. And finally, be emotionally intelligent. Do not break down. And if you're breaking down, use multiple techniques. Many are available. I wouldn't dwell into it. I have done around 21 mergers and acquisition in my career. Believe me, the toughest time for our life, because people find it very difficult to move from one entity to the other entity to the other entity. It is tough, but still, with every company that we take over or every merger, if you have that personal connect, right, everything goes smoothly. A little bit of a hiccups will always be there, but that personal connect do not leave at all. So that is all what I felt in those many years.
Fantastic. I think you brought out so many things that people who are listening, I'm sure they would have got some insights. Agility means you have to bring knowledge, you have to have not just your subject knowledge, but also get into some more domain knowledges, because that's what will make you agile. That what will give you the understanding the trends that are happening. And I think the last part that you covered was, I think that's very important. You said about the emotional intelligence, because people get into transactions because I'm your boss, imagine. So you are supposed to listen to me what I'm saying, but only till that time you have a relation. But do we have a relation the moment we leave apart? No, until you bring the emotional intelligence part. And I think that is long lasting, which I feel that a lot of managers are missing, because of which, as I said, there is a lot of cry for leadership in the system. So, Rupali, I really appreciate. I know the time will always be short, and you also have a lot of things. If I'm not wrong, you are in your office, I believe, or at your home. I don't know. So it's 8 p.m.
Still at office.
Still at office, and
Yeah, we work extra hours.
so are you saying that leaders have to work extra and stay late? Are you setting that?
I will tell you, when it's a crisis time, even if you want to, unless it is needed, do not go early, because that is the time when team is looking at you. But if you are stretching, expecting them to stretch, that's a wrong
That's
expectation,
a wrong expectation. Very true.
right? And that is where the responsibility and accountability comes into the picture. You can't have fun when everybody is stretching. So, and when everybody is having fun, do have fun with them. I think, that is something I don't have to tell the audience over here. Have fun. Do not be the manager whom they see at a distance and change their gully, sorry, change their lane. That is the most important thing. One should look at it, be the mentor, and believe me, the final satisfaction would always come when you see them growing.
Absolutely.
They may go beyond you. Do not get hesitant about that, because at the end of it, somewhere that learning is coming from you, right? So that's a satisfaction.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, Rupali. I think when I speak to you, one thing I must admit that it is not just an HR speaking, but I see a true leader who is bringing out the collective experience of your 23 years working along with some great leaders. And also in that journey, meeting, interacting, and leading teams. It's something that I can see that has come out very well in this 30-35 minutes that we have spoken. So once again, thank you very much. I'll still ask you anything that you still want to leave away with, some message that you want to convey to people who are listening and watching this right now.
I would just say, one quote when I was learning about this topic or thinking about it, the Albert Einstein quote comes in my mind. Once you stop learning, you start dying, right? And believe me, we as managers, we heard a lot about our responsibilities, but our responsibility lies for ourselves also. So, if you want to grow, whether you're first time manager, mid manager, or a senior person, take care of your health, which is everything, right? The mess is always going to be there. Find your point where you can relax, introspect, and do not push yourself so much that you will burn out at the end of the day.
True.
And hence, it's very, very important. With that thought, I would like to leave, because it is difficult for me also, considering the timeline, but I still find those times where I go back to my college days, right? And I would suggest each one of us need to have that me time. And it's not about being in college days, being with somebody. If you like to spend time with your team, also learn to spend time with yourself.
Wow,
Don't
absolutely.
get afraid of yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. So we all slog in and day out to achieve our goals, but that should not be at the cost of your health. I think that's a very important message, and I think a lot of us we get into the rut of our work, 9 to 9, 9 to 9, or even morning 6 to 9 in the night. But do take out some time for your fitness, for your mental peace, for yourself, and then you come back with more power and more agility.
We are not growing younger, even though we want to.
Yeah, correct. So, Rupali, once again, thank you so very much. And thanks to the audience for being with us at this point of time. Any feedback, any question, if you have, do post it. I'll forward it to Rupali, or if she sees it, she will herself will respond on it. So, thank you once again for each one of you, and Rupali for being here.
Thank you for having me, Arun. It was wonderful experience, and I hope as a first time LinkedIn Live person, the people who are attending, thank you all of you for being patient listener. I hope I could add little value. I'd be very happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye and good night. Thank you so much.
Good night.